Everything's going.
Okay, I think I'm going now. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you're joining us from. Hopefully I have audio. Let me double check and make sure it's, oh, I don't think I have audio. Yeah, turn your audio on, see if I have audio. Okay, yep, okay. I've got audio, woohoo. So Ava's in here today with me to help out, make sure I don't, help me keep track of things as we're doing this. So if you're new here, I'm Jim McKeeth, and welcome to the Ask Jim Anything podcast, or not podcast, webinar. It's like a podcast, except for video and we're live. I don't know, is a podcast just a new name for a webinar? It might be a live podcast. So let's see here. How do I? So we're going to see how this goes here. Let's see. It looks like people are still coming in. That is great.
So is it hard for South Wales?
Ooh, South Wales. Oh yeah, I got to say hi to everybody. Thank you. Hello. So actually, I'm going to be in I'm going to be in London. I think London, at least the UK, near London, probably. Here, when are we going? September for GDK Company Days, which is pretty exciting. I don't know if I'm going to make it over to South Wales or not, but yeah. So cool. It'll be actually my first time in the UK, so that'll be exciting. I just got back from Europe when I was over there for the Delphi Summit in the Netherlands, which was exciting, in Amsterdam. So very exciting. And Leap says, love the shirt. Thank you. I'm a big fan of it too. And if you can't see it, there's it's got Venom hidden in it from Spider-Man. I really like the Venom movie. I know some people didn't like it, but I liked it quite a bit. Okay. Let me share my screen. I'll share this actually. Let's share. Oh, hello from England. Aha. Yes. I will be over there. I don't know what part of England you're in, but maybe we'll run into each other, because I know England's a small place with very few people live there. So I'm sure the odds of just bumping into you while I'm there.
For sure.
Okay. Okay. And all right, so let me go ahead and get started here. And so the way this is working for this is going to be, I have a few questions that came in advance. Feel free to add, but you can also add new questions as we're going. Oops, wrong one. So put in your questions that you might have. Hold on, I got one more here I forgot to put on. Okay, so if you have questions, oh, Oliver, hello, Luxembourg. Good to see you. Yeah, so if you have questions, put them in the chat window, which I think, if I'm pointing the right direction, is going to be that way, if I'm right. It's one of these sides here, or actually, because we're streaming on all these different platforms, that's right. I'm streaming on all these different platforms, so it might be like down below. I doubt it's up above, but you can find it wherever you find it at, and then put your question in there, and I will answer them for you. There is, I'll put the link up here for the registration. You want to register for that, because that's how I'll send you the replay. This time, not a lot of slides, but we'll send the link to the replay out to this link here. I know that's going to be down at the bottom. And so you can go out, catch the replay. Also, you'll get notifications about more future webinars as they're coming up. So wherever you're watching this at, if you're watching it on LinkedIn or Facebook, although The platform formerly known as Twitter apparently doesn't let me stream on there anymore unless I pay them money, which is kind of disappointing. But so I'm not on there. But if you're whatever platform you're on, you can go register here. And if you're not seeing the chat window, because I don't think all of them have chat, Twitter might not. I'm not on Twitter anymore. Then you need to go to YouTube, GDK Software's YouTube channel. And we have McKeeth. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. From Poland. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen now. Let's try this again. So I'm going to share the whole screen, which is going to get the weird, like, there we go. So, yep, there we go. Well, you should see my, okay, yep. Welcome to the Ask June Anything podcast. And there it is. I was like, where's the button? Okay, so real quick, if you don't know about me, I'm Jim McKeeth. I run GDK Software USA. GDK, we have offices in, actually, I have a slide about that. So I've been programming since 1980. My parents got me a Commodore VIC-20. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I need to do. So ever since then, I've been completely obsessed with computers and everything related to it. Programmed in a lot of different programming languages. I was the chief developer advocate in Embarcadero for 10 years. I did improv comedy for another 10 years as well. About, actually not, a lot of overlap there, but not all at the same time. I also, my claim to fame is back in 2000, I had a patent for drawing geometric shapes on your computer to authenticate yourself, which is the same technology, same idea, same technology used in Swipe to Unlock. So that's kind of cool. Don't get any money from that, but I get to put up my slides. And I built a thought-controlled drone that used an EEG headset. So fun stuff. I've done all sorts of crazy things. Worked at web development, worked in embedded systems, mobile apps, server, desktop, everything. So yeah, I think, oh, this is old. If you have suggestions for webinars, you can leave them in the comments as a chat or send me an email, jim@gdksoftware.com. Oh, that's old. Okay, inline variables. This is a good one. So I hear this one a lot. People like that don't like the inline variables because they're not the traditional way of doing things. So let's take a look. Oops, I don't have Delphi running right now. Let me fire that up. Close some of these other windows down. Wow, we got a lot of things going here. I don't know why it's taking its time to boot up there. Any questions coming in? Okay. So inline, actually, I'm a big fan of inline variables. I do understand a lot of people's concern that it doesn't fit the traditional syntax, but I think it is I think it's an improvement. I think it is a good thing. So okay, let's take a look at, I'll just do a new console application here. So the traditional way we do have variable declarations, right, is we go var s string right here, and then you would say, right, what is your name? And then read line. Oh gosh, I haven't done like this in a long time. Can I do that? Is that right? I think that's right. I would say, hello plus s. And I'll put another read line in here so that it doesn't keep going. And so now if I run this, I gotta save it. Jim, hello Jim. All right, cool. So what inline variables lets us do is it lets us declare this down here as soon as we need it. Now here it's not as big of a deal because I still have to say the type, But let's say I was, gosh, I should have thought this demo through better. Actually, let me jump over here to some code I have. That I'm using inline variables in. So like right here. Here, I don't, as soon as I need the variable, I say var and then the variable name. And then the cool thing is it gets type inference. Now, the important thing here is it's still strongly typed, okay? So this is still gonna be, let me go ahead and run this. Oops, I run with debugging. So triad is still a strongly typed variable. It is still a variable of the type that came back from this. So it's not a variant or something else. It is still exactly that variable type. It's still the color palette that came back from this function. So that's an important thing. The other thing, I guess, let's see, can I, yeah, so sorry here, she says T color palette. So it's still a T color palette. So it looks at this to determine what type that should be. So it is inferring a specific type. Now you can, so if let's say you wanted to use polymorphism and you wanted to use a different type, so I could say, let's say color palette descended from T palette. I could do this, but T palette doesn't exist, so that doesn't make sense. So I could say, like, I'd be going this. I would say triad is of type T palette, and I'm going to store this in here. So that's not, or so you can do that. You can specifically specify the type in there in line, but then you can also do where it's more useful, a more likely scenario is interfaces. Okay, so if get this is returning a record, but if it was returning an interfaced object, you could store that in an interface reference here by, again, using the same syntax. I put I palette. Oops. And you can store it in an interface, and then you would have an interface reference, which would be reference counted. Is it about this? Oh, okay. So that's important. Now, one thing I love about, so there's a few things I really like about this. One is that it puts it right there where you're using it. Now, ideally, right, your function shouldn't be, this is as long as your function should be, right? It should all fit on the screen. But I like having the variable declaration down closer to where I'm using it for a readability thing, in my opinion. But the other thing is that's really useful is that, let's say you're doing a try except block, then or try finally block, and I got a free something here. The great thing is this variable doesn't exist outside this block. Okay, triad doesn't exist outside there. Now, the good thing about that is that occasionally, and actually I've talked to people that have done this, is that when they've moved from the pre-declared variables to the inline variables, that they discovered bugs where they were using a variable outside of the scope they thought they were using it in, just because it had a larger scope than necessary. So that actually uncovered bugs that they had in their code. So it does help you make more, you should always have your variables the minimum scope they need to be, right? So that helps make sure you're doing that and find those things. Now, a good question is, actually, I haven't done this. So let's go ahead and do this. I'll undo that change there. Let me go back to this one, because I'm kind of curious, actually, now I think about this. So here's an interesting question. What does this code look any different in the assembler than it would if with inline, right? So I can come in here and let's debug this. And I'm going to go view debug windows, disassembly. Okay, so here's the try block there. I guess yeah. So there wouldn't be a variable declaration. Okay, that makes sense. A variable declaration wouldn't have a line because all a variable declaration is a label on a piece of memory. So, what is your name? So readlin s, we're getting whatever we read, right? And we're storing it there. So the question is, let me grab a screenshot of this. With the right keystroke. Oops. Got the whole screen. All right. Okay, so the question is this going to be different than if I put this in here? So let me go ahead and finish running this. I found that, by the way, if you are debugging a console window, occasionally if you terminate the process, Windows gets really confused. Oh, it says it's still running. Oh, okay. If you terminate the process running a console window, especially if you're running like the Windows terminal instead of the Windows command prompt, then Windows gets really confused. So I try not to do that. I try to be really careful about that. Okay, so now I've moved this into an inline variable here. And I'm curious to see what this looks like, if this looks different. So let's put the breakpoint here. All right. So we're going to say view, debug windows, CPU windows, entire CPU. Oh, I want a disassembly. View, debug windows, disassembly. So it is different. Okay, so all right, so before when I scrolled up, I didn't see this variable declaration here, right? So this is new. What is it doing there? Okay, so this is initializing the string, I'm guessing. That's interesting. And then this is different. All right, I could definitely spend a little more time looking at this. And I'm sure, oops. I'm sure there's people already have looked at this more, and maybe there's blog posts out there about this. But so we notice here, I'm sorry, I can use the control key. Right, so here's the readlin, and we see, oops. Make that smaller. There we go. So in the readlin here, we have more, it's doing like oh, look at that. It's added an extra try except. So see, there was no try except here. So we'll put a try except block around, is there another try block? No. There's a try. But see this, wait, no, that's except was already there. No, it wasn't. Oh, I'm reading the wrong line. Sorry. Okay, so see, we see there is some additional overhead here on this readlin. So it adds, so there is a little bit of overhead on there. Now, I would say a few extra lines of assembly is not necessarily a big thing. So I would definitely benchmark that. So we have 3 calls. We have 3 calls still here. So there are a couple more pushes on here, but yeah, there is some more there. So I would definitely benchmark it. I would say in most situations, it's probably not adding a noticeable difference to your performance. But if you are experiencing, if you do benchmark it and you find you have some performance overhead, then you might, I guess, look at not doing inline variables. But otherwise, I think they're a great thing. And just because there's a couple extra lines of assembly in there does not mean it is going to slow your application down. But it could. All right. So that was interesting.
Someone commented on what
Okay. Let me go take a look at that. I don't want the screen up there now. Let's do this. Okay. The difference is mainly because the var was in the global variables. You're right. Yep, you're right. Okay. Thank you. I didn't think about that because I was doing a console application. See that when, yeah, I've done a number of times where I've done things like, I'll just make a simple console application for it. And then because, yeah, it's different, it ends up being not what I expected behavior-wise. So yeah, I will definitely look into that some more. Maybe I'll do a blog post on that. But that was interesting. Okay, let me, yeah, I saw there's another one. So this one was someone posted online the other day about how to get complementary colors and create palettes in Delphi. And this is something I've been playing with for a while because I don't know. I went down a rabbit hole about colors. And so, yeah, let's take a look at this. So the Delphi has a function, hue, saturation, and luminance. So there's multiple ways to do color. Actually, this is a good example of it here. Let me run this one here. Is this the one I'm running? So this is open source. I have it up on GitHub. So there's multiple ways to define a color. In computers, we usually think about RGB, which is your additive? Yes. No, subtractive. Subtractive. So what subtractive means is that if you max all of them out, then you get white. Okay. But then there's also CMYK. So CMYK is what's used in print, and CMYK is subtractive or additive, because if you add all the colors to max, then you get black. Oops, that's a bug. As soon as it hits black, it flips it around. To fix that one. All right, so I'll have to do this here. 100. Ooh, that's interesting. All right, so not go to 100. But yeah, if I was to go this all the way to 100, it would. The reason is because internally it's converting it into RGB and then back again, and I think that was a mistake. So yeah, so you have subtractive and additive. Now there's also hue, saturation, luminance, which is this one here. So hue, saturation, luminance is actually kind of the cool, useful way of working with colors. So if you set your luminance to 50% and then your saturation to 100, then your hue, and actually in the Delphi functions for these are singles. So this would be a 1, this would be a 0.5, and then this would be any decimal, but think about it as 360 degrees. And so I'm displaying the 360 as a whole number here. But as you move through this changes the hue. Now this here is creating palettes, different types of palettes, and this is the complementary color here, based on whatever color you selected. And so the way complementary color works is, if you think about this as 360 degrees, like a circle, is if you had the colors in a circle, if you go 180 degrees from the color you're on, that's the complementary color. Okay, so if I go to yellow here, the blue is 180 degrees beyond that. So if I take 65 plus 180, that would be 65 plus 180 would be 140. Oops. Can I not type in here? Apparently not. All right, so it should be 145. So if I go here to blue, or 245, sorry. 245, that's roughly where I was. And I think if I click this, yeah, if I click this, it jumps. Yeah, see that? So a complementary color is 180 degrees on the hue. So all you have to do is convert your RGB to HSL and then go 180 degrees to get your complementary color. Now, if you want to get these other types of palettes here, which I try to come up with every type of palette I could think of, then you can do that. And actually, I have a simpler one here. Well, this one might be simple enough. Now let's go to this one. I made a VCL version of this as well. So this one, I created this T color palette, which I'm showing you in the other one here. If you go to here and we say we want to create a analogous palette, then we create with analogous here, and I should probably change that to be a scoped enum, and that's a 3-color palette. And then right here you see all I'm doing is adding. I'm going 30 degrees. So if here's my color, I go 30 degrees forward or 30 degrees back, and that creates it. So you've probably seen these like diagrams on like the color wheel and like the different palette things. So see, that's it, right? 120 degrees, 240 degrees. This one's 90, 80, 270. That's it. That's all there is to it. So once you get it in HSL, which RGB to HSL is right here, and it's declared in system UI const, then you take your base color, you convert it to HSL. Your saturation, your luminance, it can ignore that. Your hue is what you want to change. You change your hue and then recombine it back together again with HSL to RGB, your modified hue, your new hue with your existing saturation luminance, and you can create any kind of palettes you want. And if you're curious, if you want to create a really nice spectrum, like you would see in a rainbow, it is 7 points, 1/7. So all you have to do is take the 360, 1/7 of the 360. So you divide your circle into 7 parts. So you have remember Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? That's 7. And that is exactly it right there. It's just 1/7 around the 360 degrees. And you have a beautiful, actually I'll run this one, spectrum. So that's it right there. So this one just takes your, so this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 is the main color. So this one will create it on anything. And if you notice, you see the most, it looks like you see the green the most on here. And that's because green is the color our eyes are best at seeing. And that has to do, actually that varies from person to person, but generally speaking, most humans see green the most. And which is why at like airports is where I see it the most. You see the fire engines, instead of being fire engine red or fire engine green, because green's more visible. So yeah, this does all the different palettes there. And this one all does, it's this one here. I just took all the palettes, all the formulas here that are up in this one, and just put it all in one just for the heck of it. And there you go. I think this is kind of cool to do the rotation on that. Oh, and this one shades up here. Actually, it would be shades and it's tints.
Tints and shades.
So tints and shades, I can't remember. So there's, if you add black, it's tints. If you add white, it's shade. No,
if you add white, it's tints.
If you add white, it's tints. Black is what? Black is shades. And then what's if you add gray?
Oh.
Anyway, if you look it up, if you search for, let's look, shades versus tints. There it is.
Oh, tone.
Tone, yes. So, yeah, if you add gray is tone, you add white is tint, black is a shade. Yeah, so cool stuff. I think it's cool. Maybe you don't. So complementary colors. Switch to HSL, which is in the system UI const, and then just think about 360 degrees, go 180, you get a complementary or other things, and you can create palettes. But the key is that your saturation and your luminance stay the same. Okay, so Mark asked, handling varied screen resolutions. What would you advise using as a form size when designing systems, and how would you make them adapt to different user screen resolutions and scaling? For older systems, not high DPI. So this is a pain. This can be a pain. So the good news is that the updated high DPI support in the later versions of Delphi does actually translate to handling this better. Now, it used to be way back in the day, if you had someone that was using a different scaling, then some of your controls would scale differently than other controls, and it was a mess. And I always be putting space around my labels and stuff like that, which honestly probably was better than trying to cram as much information in there as possible. But now it handles it a lot better. Now, let me see. So, gosh, I should have looked this one up beforehand. I'm pretty sure if you go to project options, somewhere it's in here. Is it manifest? Okay, yeah, DPI awareness. So it used to be, I don't remember what the default was here long ago. So Windows XP introduced this idea of the manifest file that's embedded in your executable that contains some information describing how your application interacts with the OS. And there used to be a way you could go in and manually create one or manually inject it, but now it's handled automatically right here, auto generate. I guess you could custom. All right, play with that one. So here you can say that you want to require administrator, for example. Not a good idea. I mean, it's nice that you can do that, but not always a good idea. So per monitor v2 is the default now, and that is a new. So per monitor and per monitor v2 are both fairly new in the DPI awareness, because that actually is able to deal with where you have two different monitors, one that's high DPI or one that's a different scaling than the other one. So high DPI is just a term we use to refer to a monitor that is ideally viewed with a scaling factor turned on, because there's so many pixels on the screen that, for example, if you put twice as many horizontal and vertical pixels, if you make your text that, if you don't use scaling, your text will be really small. And for some people, young people with young eyes, they love it because, oh my goodness, look at all this text out of my screen. But for the rest of us, we want to have our fonts readable. You want to turn on scaling. And so scaling then just makes everything, all the UI elements, scale. Now, I was going to do some scaling here, but I think that might, let me see what happens. Actually, it shouldn't break things. Settings. Display, personalization. Where is it at? I feel like they change this every time I go to look for it. Display. There it is. So right now, my new laptop doesn't have high DPI, although it does recommend I go to 125. So let's try that 125. And so I don't know if that came through or not, but this dialog got bigger because of the way the scaling went. Now, if I go back into Delphi, it's also got a resize. And so we see, again, I see less on the screen because of the scaling, but it looks a lot nicer because it's using more pixels to render the text and stuff like that. So they're more, they look nicer, more smoother. So yeah, so this scaling is the same for high DPI as it would be for different scales that you might run into on different computers. It's the same thing. That was my point. So the how to handle this. So there's a few ways to handle it. What I like to do is actually this one here. I take advantage of the anchors. And then I also have a splitter in here. So if I run this one. So I anchor everything and have splitters and panels. Oops, that's not a splitter there. That's a color picker. So I used to be, years ago, back when I was working on, computers that had 1040 by 480, 1040 by 480? No, 1020 by 1024 by 768. That's what it was. 1024 by 768. I'd always maximize everything because, we didn't have very much Windows real estate. But now I try and make my forms design them for the smallest size possible, right? So I make them small enough or make them just big enough to hold what I need them to hold. But then I design it where I take advantage of anchors and alignments so that, which I can show you what those are. You can, so this is a FireMonkey, but it's the same. It's mostly the same in VCL, right? I have a layout here. In VCL, you probably use a panel. And I say align left on this one. And then this one here is in another layout, which is aligned client. I put a splitter right here between them. And then this layout here is aligned right. So you can use alignments and anchors and do a lot. Now, FireMonkey also has this ability to do these variant views, which gives you way more control if you want to have it behave differently on different platforms, layout be different on different platforms. There are a ton of layout options in FireMonkey. The flow layout, can you see that? Is that covered up by my? Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Flow layout is actually really cool. It lets you put elements on, and then as the screen resizes, they flow like word wrap. Okay, so if you think about each of the elements you put on as a word in a document, as you resize the thing, it just flows onto the next row. That's kind of cool. Grid layout lets you do grids. Scaled layout seems cool, but I don't know. I'm skeptical of the utility of that. And I've seen some applications that do something similar to this, whereas it resizes. You can have everything scale up and down. So if you make your form, if you resize the form to be bigger, it just scales everything bigger, so it always fills the entire form, for example. You can do that. I'm not a big fan of that, honestly. So in VCL, they actually have some new layouts in VCL as well. Layout, or no, it's a panel. So we have a flow panel and a grid panel now in VCL too. So flow panel does the same thing, and then grid panel lets you define a grid, and you can put components in the different elements of the grid, so the different cells of the grid, which is pretty useful. So it's not like a data grid necessarily, but it's that layout. So you're not going to have the scrolling and editing and stuff like. Well, you could put edits in there. You could make a grid, I guess, technically, but probably not the right way to do that. So yeah, how would I do it? I would make my form as small as possible and then take advantage of the alignments and the anchors to make it expand nicely. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Oops. This is a good one. Developing software for laptops. How do you prevent your database programs from crashing because lid gets closed, machine hibernates, wakes up in a different IP address, battery empty, lost Wi-Fi, wireless, etc. So there's a number of ways you can tackle this. And I'm going to say that this is a very widespread problem with laptops. I love the Windows subsystem for Linux, but it does not handle, actually, let's see, here, I'll do it. So Windows subsystem for Linux, if you try and launch it after your machine's hibernated, which my machine hibernated, it's going to take like 10 seconds to come up here. This is ridiculous. And the only way, and it'll take 10 seconds every time I try and use it until I shut it down completely and restart it. I swear it used to work right. and now it's slow. And I searched online, and probably people have the same problem. So yeah, this is hibernating. Not all software knows how to handle hibernation, and that's not just a you and me thing. Apparently, it's a Microsoft thing too. So how to handle that? There are events that you can Windows messages that you can get notified about. See, look, it's still not started yet. This is ridiculous. This is like my old laptop. It's actually right here. The main board died right before Delphi Summit, and I had to go to get a new laptop. And I'm like, it's like, well, I could either get like just the minimum that'll get me by, or maybe I could get like a really beefy laptop that has like a GPU for running all these cool AI things. And this is right before the ARM. See, it just finally came up. That's ridiculous. Let's see, watch, if I do this, if I do WSL shutdown, which will take a few seconds, and then launch it again. It's going to take a couple seconds here because it's to start the whole thing up, but way quicker, right? And see, now it's way fast. So that's what it should have been. It should be like this. But after hibernation, it's just messed up. Anyway, back to the laptop. So I was like, I could either get a laptop just good enough to get me through Delphi Summit, or I could like get a big beefy one. And it's right before the ARM laptops, the new Copilot Plus, I think they're calling them, laptops were coming out. So I couldn't get one of those, which was a bummer because I kind of like where to get one of those. But I went to Costco and I got this. You can't see it because I'm on this laptop, but it's a beast. It's a gaming laptop, ridiculously big. I barely fits in my bag, but it's an i9. Yeah, it's an i9 with a GeForce RTX 4090, I think, or I don't know, I forget what it is. Big GPU, i9 32 cores, incredibly over ridiculous laptop. It's got room for 2 SSDs in it, so of course I had to upgrade the SSDs. So now I don't know I got this one fixed, but now I don't know what to do with it because it's a lot nicer. It's smaller than this beast. Anyway, point is, WSL messes up too. Anyway, there are events you can get. Oops, let's see. Windows message hibernation. Gosh, I have not looked in the documentation for a while. There is a message that you can get, and so you can set up your application to be notified when. Let's try this. Oh, I know. I'll do the. Oops. I know Brave has. How to when Windows. The trick is always getting it to. Okay. Stack Overflow. Program. Okay, here it goes. Register power setting notifications. So, by the way, these large language models think of them as really good search engines, but always double check what they tell you. So let's go here. Yep. So register power setting notification. You can come in here and register to say, I want to know when the, I don't know, this may not be the right one, but there's a thing you can register for to be notified. I don't think, there might be a third-party component that does this for Delphi. I don't think there's one built in for Delphi that does this. So what you want to do is you'd want to say, let me know when this happens. Let me know. You can get a notification like when the system's going down for hibernation, when the system's waking up for hibernation. and you'll want to handle those events, and then do whatever you need to do to disconnect and reconnect from your database, from your know that your IP address has changed, stuff like that. So it's going to require that you figure out what you need to do to fix the bad condition that you're in. And then once you have those notifications, though, then you can do that before the user's like, this isn't working, and has to restart WSL manually. So I could, as a user, go into task manager, task scheduler. Yes, I could go into task scheduler now if I wanted to, and I could set up a task that says, hey, when my system wakes up from hibernation, I want to shut down WSL and restart it again. I'll probably do that because that's annoying the way it is now. But there's lots of other software on my laptop that also gets messed up on that too. So, okay, so we have a couple questions that came in on the chat. Do you want to throw one of those up for me? Can you read it off to me? I don't have the screen.
Sure. Which design patterns would you recommend to start with in Delphi? Are there any good materials or examples on that topic?
Oh, design patterns. So there are. So this is actually something I've seen a few things that have come up from time to time on this topic. I will talk a little bit about this, and then I'll go look and see if I can find the examples I'm looking for. Let's see. No, I'm not sure I changed all that. So unfortunately, and I'm guilty of this, the RAD design pattern, the RAD design pattern, which is, I'm guilty of showing this off, list box, edit, right, of throwing these components down and then clicking on the button and writing all the code I need to do everything in the event handler is bad. So now the code in your event handler should only be the code that is, it's the minimum code. It's the glue. It is what is connecting your components together. So this would be code, just something like this, listbox1.items.add edit 1.text. That is totally valid to put in here because that's one line of code that is just connecting these two things together. Now, technically, there are other ways you could do this if you wanted to. If you wanted to further decouple things, I feel like that might be on the diminishing return side, but it is possible to have other things that loosely couple this, so it's elsewhere. So what you would want to do is you'd want to come in here and say add new unit, and then any functionality, anything you need to do. And actually, I will show. In here, this needs to be, no, actually, so this is good here, I think. Let me think. I'm going to be critical of my code here I've written. All right, so this I would change. This one I'm doing, no, that's just reading that, okay. So I'll call out what I'm doing right here before I try and figure out what I'm doing wrong, is I am using the, it's in the paint right here. Instead of putting all this palette generation code in my UI, I've put it in this separate unit, okay? So that is the first design pattern I would suggest, is that you want to, as much as possible, put everything outside of your form handler. Now, this is referencing controls, this is referencing control, this is referencing controls. I think, yeah, most of this is referencing controls. I could probably refactor this some to some more, but I don't know. This might be the minimum that is in here now, or might be, yeah, I think this might be as minimum as I could, minimalistic as I could go. But good rule of thumb is that your each function, each method should be at most. I mean, that's about as long as it should be. If it gets longer than that, then you should start being, is this getting too long? Is it doing too many things? Reduce it down. But then within your within your form code here, I would also, if it doesn't need to be in the event handler in the code, I would actually take it out. Now this one does, because this is a paint, and this is a paint, so it needs to be in there. Although it could be pulled out and then just called from that, possibly, I suppose. Yeah, so this could be pulled out. And so the reason you might pull it out is, like, let's say, actually, this is a good example. This is a, let's do that right now. I use Control-Shift-C to update the interface, which of course fixed that. This is another thing I love about inline variables right here, by the way, is I didn't have to move those around. It just, because it was declared where they was muted, it's good to go. So what this does is, now, let's say I somewhere else want to update the RGB, I don't have to call the event handler, right? So you should never call an event handler. Well, you should rarely call an event handler from somewhere else. So that would be, by doing this, then I'm able to call update RGB instead of the event handler. So if you have existing code where you've put everything in the event handlers, that's a good refactoring, right? What can you take out and still keep it in your form, right? And then once you do that, then you can say, what can I take out of this form and put it in a separate unit? So that would be, hopefully that is kind of answering your question. Patterns can be, there's a lot of variety to that. There is, there's key frame stand. This is I haven't used this in a while. Yeah, this is a really useful design pattern. This is, I think he has a VCL version. Yeah, this is the FireMonkey version. I don't see a VCL one. So this one makes it easy to, like, instantiate, to have different forms that you're, like, moving between and instantiating descendants and stuff like that. Like I said, I haven't used it in a while. Take a look at this one. This is a good one. There's another one that's, this one's been updated. This called Columbus egg. Nope. Oh, it's moved. Still old though. Yeah, so I don't. This has been updated, but this is another loosely coupled framework. Take a look at it. It might still be good. Just because he hasn't updated in a while doesn't mean it's not still useful. And then actually, he might, you know what he may have done? He may have a variation of this in his book. So you might take a look at his, oh yeah, Delphi MVC framework. Wait, this is for REST ones. That's right. So he has a book on that. For REST, I would definitely take a look at this one. This is probably the most popular design pattern framework out there for building REST servers. web APIs. I'm trying to think what else is there is a there in as far as design patterns goes, there is I think actually I have a fork of it on my GitHub. Yep. I probably haven't updated in a long time. Oh yeah, that's really old. I should go through and update this. Here's a bunch of complete set of Gang of 4 patterns implemented in Delphi from 9 years ago. I don't know where it came from. Where did this? I thought this was a fork, but I don't see. Huh. All right. I will have to look at that. Gosh, I have not touched that. Where did I get this? Oh, right there. But it's gone. Yeah. Okay. I should go through and touch that again. But so this is the Gang of 4 book, which was not for the Gang of 4 book, that they kind of created the idea of design patterns in code. And here are examples, but I need to go through and clean that up. So, okay. Any more questions have come in? Got another question? Okay.
What is your recommendation for using a license key or a similar system so that one copy of an installation is registered per user?
How to use a license key or similar system to make sure one copy is registered per user. I believe there are some systems out there for Delphi already. Of course, this just says the license. Okay, that's not it. Oh gosh. Delphi license. I'm trying to think if I can remember any. I know I've seen one like this. This isn't the one I was thinking of, but there you go. There's one. I would probably look for an existing system out there and test it out and see if it's going to work. This is a tricky thing to deal with and is complicated to get right. There are so many. Once your software is running on a computer that somebody has physical control over, they can really do also. Oh my goodness, it's 10 o'clock. Top of the hour. There's so many things they can do to try and circumvent it. So the only way to really lock it down is to have a central server that is managing it, and that the software has to connect to that central server, and the central server then looks and says, who is it? Where are they connected from? Wait, they're connected from someplace else, denied, or they're not connected from someplace else, accepted, and create some rules around that. Now, today, people are connected most of the time, so that's usually okay to deal with, but there are times when you're not always connected, so that might not always be an effective solution. But yeah, I would look for a package out there that is available. There are other things that try to do securing the binary, so binary can't be modified and stuff like that. Lots of things out there for that, code guard type stuff. I will say also that I've seen where they've done, I think Steam has a system where you can see like you have controls so they can adjust pricing in different regions. And they found that if there's a region they have really high piracy on a game, if they adjust the pricing down, they can find the sweet spot where all some people aren't pirating anymore because it's cheaper to buy it. I think it was Gabe Newell from Steam, from valve that said piracy is a means that it's a problem with the licensing. It's a sales problem, right? So if you make sales less painful, piracy goes away. That's a whole other conversation, though. So that's one I've seen. Number of companies that have tried to address it that way, by instead of trying to stop piracy, or they say, well, what if you make it lower priced? That was the original thing, Turo Pascal, $49.99. It was so cheap, why bother anything else? Trying not to get too philosophical there. All right, so yeah, take a look at some of these systems here. Ideally, want to have some sort of central server that can manage things, deny licenses, allow licenses, and stuff like that. But the more often you're calling into the central server, the more annoying it is for users, and you want to make sure. So the reality is, eventually, someone's going to circumvent your protection, but you want to make sure that your protection isn't so painful that your users that are paying you for the software don't try and look for a way to circumvent your license management, even after they're paying you, because then that's annoying. Anyway, hopefully that helps. Anything else? Any other question? Nope. All right. I will. So I had one more that I put on here. CrowdStrike. You probably heard about this. 8.5 million computers went offline. Actually, they just put a blog post up. CrowdStrike. I probably can't find it now. If you haven't heard about CrowdStrike, there you go. This might be it. So essentially what they did is they pushed out an update that, so it was a WCL kernel driver. So WCL is a certification process Microsoft has that says, hey, this is a tested to be good. But then they're pushing out updates that, what else isn't it? Somewhere they have a post where they listed, this is what we're going to do going forward to make sure this doesn't happen again, which it's like, if your software is running on 8.5 million computers, you should have been doing this before. Some of those things being like staggered releases, instead of releasing it to all 8.5 million computers at once, release to some of those computers and make sure those don't work, or have in-house testing, little things like that. But essentially they pushed out in order to make their system more faster, so they can update it faster, their driver was WCL certified, which is like, I can't remember what WCL stands for. But then they were pushing out P-code updates that had all the functionality in it that were not WCL certified. They're being pushed out as like definitions. And then the driver was just executing it without enough checks to make sure it was valid. And they pushed it out and it was empty. It was all zeros. And so when it tried to execute it, it's just like null pointer reference, and messed it up. And of course, because the driver was saying it was a boot priority driver or something like that. So it's the driver is running in kernel mode, and it was a boot priority, which means even if I fail Windows, you cannot run without me. So Windows could not kick it out. So huge mess. Dang. And yeah, they have a blog post where they list they're going to actually start providing like letting their customers decide when they want to have updates come out, so they don't show up on Friday, which everybody hates updates on Friday. You don't push production on Friday, and they're also going to start including release notes in the updates. Other good suggestions too. So anyway, yeah, crazy. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I got another question here. Thanks for. How would you learn unit testing from scratch in Delphi? Oh, trying to remember if Nick Hodges' book covers unit testing. Oh, that link is broken. I should let Nick know that it. That link is broken. All right, there we go. Here's an Amazon link. Oh, I should share my screen. I'm a big fan of DUnit over DUnit. Okay, I don't see. Yeah, it doesn't look like he has unit testing in here. That's a good question. Gosh, there's the, I can't remember the website for it. Delphi books. There it is. I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, so go out here and take a look and see if one of these books has unit testing in it. Gosh, is there a, I guess you have to look at each one and see if one of them covers unit testing. Code Better in Delphi, it's on here twice. That one might have unit testing. Yeah, I bet this. I think this one has unit testing in it. So, yeah, Test Insight, big fan of that. Functional testing, unit test. Okay, so take a look at Code Better in Delphi. Alistair Christie, he probably has videos on the topic as well. And then, like I said, I like Test Insight and DUnit. DUnit X and Delphi Test Insight. Okay. DUnit X, you go out here, it's on GitHub, Vsoft Technologies, DUnit X. This is, I use, so Delphi ships with an older version of unit testing frameworks. I would just come out here, follow the instructions on how to update it, and then get Test Insight. Even though this says it's an older date, he has, where's the download link? Yeah, so here's the download link here. If you just search for Delphi Test Insight, and then this will download the latest version. It's on, yeah, so just download it. So check a look at those two things there, and yeah, Code Better in Delphi, update your DUnit X, and Test Insight for Delphi, and that should get you going with. What's this say here? First book is. Oh, it's the book. So let's scroll through the books. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, that's it. Oh wait. What is it like to work with Codolex tools? We have, so if you go to our GDK Software's YouTube channel, which you might be watching it on there now, there are some videos here on working with Codolex, but Codolex is, so I will say this, I think I've said this before, but when Marco and Kays were showing it to me originally, I was like, oh, another low code tool for Delphi. And I was a little skeptical, but it checked the boxes of my complaints about other low code tools. So one of the things it does that's cool is that you can make stuff in Codolex, make flows, and then reuse those flows in other flows. Okay. And so that's right. So the simple stuff, okay, that's cool. But then being able to then build those up into more complicated things, that's the cool thing. And so, yeah, definitely check out the videos on GDK Software's YouTube channel for on Codolex, and you can see some demos on that there. I'm over the time here right now, so I'm not going to show it off, but definitely I do. It's free now as well, so it's really worth checking out. It, like I said, it checked the boxes for me of what makes a good development tool, really, not just a low code tool, but a good development tool. Is that and that's the thing I love about Delphi, right? Is that Delphi is mostly written in Delphi. So if you don't like the way Delphi is working, just rewrite that part of it. So yeah, cool. Oops. Yes. Okay. That's it. So thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully this was interesting, and make sure you are subscribed to our mailing, or there mailing.gdksoftware.com/webinars, so that you can hear about future webinars. I actually have some more scheduled that I just haven't put up on the website yet, but we'll be putting them up shortly. And yeah, look forward to seeing you online. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, jim@gdksoftware.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody. Bye. So there's a question just came in. Will I be coming to the Embarcadero Brazil conference? I don't know. I was planning to, but there's a couple things changed around. So I don't know for sure if I'll be there or not. Hopefully. I like going down for that conference. So hopefully I'll be there.